This book is called Vera Rides a Bike by Vera Rosenberry. One fragrant spring day, Vera and her mother went to the park. Vera rode her tricycle, and she whistled a cheery tune as she pushed the pedals up and down. Vera loved her bright red bicycle. There was a round bell on the right handlebar, and streamers flowed out of the hand grips. Crepe paper from the 4th of July parade was still threaded around the front wheel. Inside the park, Vera and her mother watched some fish swimming in a fountain. The sun warmed Vera's face and made gold patterns in the cold water as she dipped her hands in and out, hoping that fish would swim against them. Vera and her mother turned back to continue along the path, but Vera's tricycle was no longer where she left it. "My tricycle!" Vera cried, suddenly feeling very dizzy and sick. Vera stared at the empty spot. No one was in sight, and it was so quiet that even the birds had stopped singing, and dark clouds bubbled up in the sky. Oh no. Vera and her mother looked everywhere for her tricycle. They reported its disappearance to the park police officer, who took notes in his tiny red book. It began to rain. Sadly, Vera and her mother walked home. "Maybe someone will find it," Mother said, as she squeezed Vera's hand. But no one did. Weeks went by and summer came. Vera missed her tricycle. She moped on the front steps. "You were too big for it anyway," said her sister Elaine. "Your knees bumped the handlebars." "I know," Vera replied, "but it was my very own tricycle, and I loved it." Sometimes Elaine would let Vera practice balancing on her big blue bicycle. Vera sat on the crossbar and scraped her feet along the ground, and then raised them up to coast. But Elaine's bike was far too big for Vera to ride properly. One Saturday, Vera's father said he had a surprise. There, in the driveway, was a small green bicycle, just the right size for Vera. "This was Elaine's first bicycle," her father said. "I repaired it and painted it your favorite color. It's supposed to be for your birthday in November, but since your tricycle is gone, you may have it now." Vera remembered the broken and battered little bike, which used to be purple. She liked it much better green, and it looked new again. She kicked up the stand and happily walked her beautiful bicycle down the driveway. "Here," said her mother, "you will need this." And Vera carefully strapped on a new white helmet. Father held the bike and she mounted the seat. Her feet reached the pedals perfectly, and Vera felt very big. "Maybe we ought to put on some training wheels," Father suggested. "No, thank you," said Vera. "I don't need them. I can balance very well already." Father ran along the sidewalk, holding the bicycle while Vera learned to pedal. After a while, he occasionally let go. Almost every day after dinner, Father or Mother helped Vera ride her bicycle in the schoolyard. Soon she could balance by herself after someone started her off. Then she would quickly circle around and call out when she needed to be stopped. She's very brave. One evening, everyone was busy when Vera wanted to ride her bike. So she put on her helmet and walked her bike to the schoolyard alone. I hope she's going to be okay. Vera saw Norman. He was going down the slide head first. "I bet you can't ride a bike by yourself," Norman said. "Yes, I can," Vera replied. "But will you hold it so I can start?" "Sure," said Norman. Vera proudly rode around the school on the smooth slate sidewalk. Norman was now on the swing set watching her. He waved as she flew by. After a long time, Vera wanted to stop. She looked around for Norman. He was not on the swing set anymore. Vera rode around again. "Norman!" she called, pedaling slowly. Norman was not in the sandbox. He was not on the slide or on the monkey bars. He must have gone home. So around and around Vera went. And she wanted to go home too. Look at her go. "Help!" Vera yelled. "I can't stop." But there was no one in the schoolyard to hear her, and the sun was beginning to set. Vera thought maybe she could ride all the way home, but she would have to cross some streets, and she couldn't stop to look for cars. Around and around and around Vera went. Her legs were tired and the air was chilly. Finally, Vera said firmly, "I'll just have to use the brakes and stop myself, or I will be here all night." Vera turned into the big kite flying field to help slow her down. She closed her eyes tight and she pressed backward very hard on the pedals. Her bicycle stopped, but Vera didn't, and she flew into the air and onto the long, soft grass. Vera lay in the sweet-smelling field. It was quiet, and she was happy to be still at last. Carefully she got up and she dusted herself off. Her knees and elbows were skinned and grass-stained, but she was not hurt. She's okay. By now, it was almost dark. Vera walked her bicycle home as quickly as she could. She shivered and her legs felt rubbery. In front of her house, Vera's parents ran up to meet her. "Where have you been, Vera?" they asked. "It's nearly dark. We were so worried." But when they saw how tired and dirty Vera looked, they were just happy that she was safely home. Vera's legs and arms were not working very well, so Mother had to help her take a bath. As Father tucked her into bed, Vera said, "Now I can ride my bike all by myself. I even used the brakes." She smiled and yawned, and Father kissed her goodnight. "Tricycles are good for when you're small," Vera thought as she closed her eyes. "But riding my bicycle is almost like flying." The end. That's a nice dream, huh?